Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. And we do have to start immediately now. Those are still outside will miss out on the first 10 minutes of our next forum. So without further ado, distinguished guests, now we shall begin with the second industrial forum on manufacturing sector, tackling ESG, green procurement strategies, and embedded supply chain emissions. May I have the pleasure to invite Ms. Jackie Ma. Where are you? Oh, there you are on standby already. Executive Vice President, Institute of Corporate Directors, Malaysia, to chair the session this time around. All right, now may I introduce the panelists that will be talking today. Mr. George Yap, President of the Malaysian Timber Association, and MWMJC and Managing Director of Weng Meng Group. Datuk PK Ang Group Executive Director, Tongguan Industries Berhad. Ms. Navina Balasingham, General Manager, Capital Markets Malaysia, and Ms. Renuka Indraja, Corporate Affairs and Legal Director, Heineken Malaysia Berhad. Mr. Andrew Chan, Director, Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Everybody's on stage. Perfect, fantastic. So, Miss Jackie, you can take it away whenever you wish. Can we give her the mic? Is it? We give her some.
I think it's working now. Thank you, Maya.
All right. Have a good session.
Thank you. So I hope you had a good lunch. It's not always a good idea to have a session after lunch, so we hope people will come in as and when you're ready. So to start off the session, I'd like to say for the session today, we will be looking at the manufacturing industry. Our 5 distinguished panelists here will speak about their experience in their respective roles and organization in minimizing the environmental footprint, practicing responsible sourcing, and managing waste sustainably. So maybe to start off the session, I will hand it over to George, who will be giving a brief presentation followed by the remaining 4, and then we will proceed with a dialogue and Q&A with the rest. George, over to you.
Thank you, Jackie. Good afternoon. I would like to start with an introduction about my current responsibility. So from the table, from the logo on the left, you can see Malaysia Timber Association. So Malaysia Timber Association consists of 9 timber associations across upstream to downstream, Peninsula Malaysia to East Malaysia. So with that, it is a holistic timber industry representation. So the second one here, you can see Malaysia Wood Molding and Joinery Council. Malaysia Wood Joinery Council is more towards the downstream product. The third one is Malaysia Timber Council. So I'm currently the Board of Trustee. So it is a semi-government agency. The last one here is Malaysia Consortium of Mid-Tier Company. So this is a category of association members represent mid-tier company, which is about less than 5% of the company, but represent 40% of the country GDP. So my company name is Weng Meng Group of Company, Weng Meng Industry, and I produce this range of product. On the right-hand side here, you can see cable drum. So cable drum made of timber and steel. There's a lot of timber consumption here. The center you can see here is a wooden door. Door product means a toilet door, fire door, acoustic door, all sort of door. And the top left-hand side is OPT. OPT is a short term of oil palm trunk. So I'm now in converting the oil palm trunk waste to create raw material for my own use. The brand of my door is mentioned in the top left corner, Sand Door. So I would like to share my current practice towards the ESG and also the Carbon Net Zero initiative. You can see from the cycle here, the oil palm tree, which is abundant in Malaysia, every 25 years need to replantation, and we have more than 20 millions of trunk every year. And this residue of the wood waste, trunk waste, we are now in the midst of converting into a wood replacement raw material. You can see on the bottom, it is in the form of sawn timber, plywood, board, and semi-finished product. And this enables me to use it for my own product, such as making door, making cable drum. At the same time, there's a possibility I can share my capacity to furniture producer. And the brand for this initiative I have is called LC Plus. LC Plus is an idea after I visited Australia last year, because they say, don't keep on sell your product under the terms of oil palm trunk waste, because it is a very sensitive topic. So they asked me to create a brand. So I have this brand here, LC Plus, means a life cycle extension of all the waste product. I particularly want to share this initiative. On this initiative here, you can see it is showing our effort, how we create our product by looking into the circular economy. So from the top corner, our raw material can be coming from the sustainable plantation timber. At the same time, we can also coming from the agricultural waste product. And after we manufacturing into the door, so this door, there's a life cycle. So at the end of this life cycle, we provide the option, a program to buy back. So when we buy back the door, then we can go into the circular economy. So from the diagram here, number 1, this is a door under the buyback program. So we call it a circular series. So when the customer return due to, they want to upgrade, due to the door is damaged, so we will able to do an upcycling. So you can see that number 2 here, we basically cut away the damaged part. Turn it around, make it into the 4, 5, and repeat again. And the remanufactured door in the diagram number 5 is actually stronger than number 1. So by doing this one, without doing the second life cycle, we have do our calculation, but not yet verified. Every single door, by using our palm oil trunk waste, making into this door, under this circular economic program, one door, we are estimated to have a carbon storage of 300 kg carbon emission, means 0.3 tons. So this is not being verified, but it is a significant number. So we have some introduction to some of the Malaysia developer, Singapore developer. We have a friend from Sime Darby Development has expressed an interest, and they have signed a MOU with us, because people like big giant like Sime Darby, there's an ESG commitment. At the same time, they are the oil palm plantation business people. At the same time, they are the property developer. So I'm going to share this calculation. And again, after we show this one to most of the same industry people, they said, this is a good idea, as in, now the timber is limited. We should best use of the timber. Therefore, the core material, which is able to replace by non-timber, will be very much relevant for current market situation. So with that, furniture people also express an interest. So I'm looking to scale up the business in the very soon period of time. So this is about our commitment, carbon net zero by 2050. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. I think we will continue the conversation also on circular economy by Datuk P.K. Ang, who is the Group Executive Director at Tong Guan Industries Berhad.
Oh,
Yeah.
can I do this one? Well, talk about plastics. Everyone has a negative image on plastics, right? So, but I want to tell you, I want to change the perspective. Plastic is the most sustainable packaging material compared with the other alternatives. If we replace plastic with other alternatives, the energy consumption, even the carbon footprint, is 3 or 4 times. And to recycle the alternatives compared to plastics, the energy consumption is also 3 or 4 times more than the plastics. So, yes. And who drives sustainability? And I written here, there's no single party that can achieve sustainability goal by themselves. So there are stakeholders in the supply chain. Yeah. So, for example, for my company, we produce low carbon products. What do you mean by low carbon products? we produce the thinnest plastics film to wrap or pack a pallet. We are talking about 4 or 5 micron. That's very, very thin. So we are producing plastics, but we are telling the customers to use this plastics. No, it's a conflict of interest. But we believe that it is, we talk about accountability. Yeah. So we produce, for example, stretch film, right? You wrap every pallet. There are billions of pallets that are moved every year globally. Billions. Right? And how many pallets, how much goods are damaged upon arrival if the goods are not wrapped properly? So I'll explain later, because we have a dynamic simulation lab. It's just like, at what impact your airbag will pop up? At what impact the airbag in your car will pop up? Someone must have done a lot of dynamic simulation, slow motion video, and we are doing the same with plastics. And now we are producing a nano layer plastic film, 67 layer. It's very, very thin. Can you imagine 5 micron, there are 67 layers of plastics? So, and we reduced all this stretch film for wrapping pallets. Usually it's 3-inch paper core, and we can reduce to 2-inch paper core, 1-inch paper core, and even coreless. So we have all this range of products. And if you look at the website of the multinational companies, either they are HQ in Europe or in the US, it says, oh, by 2025, 50% of the packaging material must contain recycled resin. So who is going to look into all this? So for my company, we have a few projects to reduce, to promote sustainability. For example, plastics, they are plastic resin. You drop on the floor, you sweep under the flow onto the drain, and you'll be there for the next 100 years. So we call this occupational OCS, operational clean sweep, to make sure that no plastic is landfill, flow to floor, and we have in-house recycling. And now we are producing plastics films with 30% recycle. Yeah, and also we also work with a company that manage wooden pallets. So the pallets are reused, refurbished, and at the end of the day, we are trying to promote, we are very passionate to promote sustainability. Yeah. So you can see that sorting at source. I'll explain to you what is sorting at source. For example, during the pandemic, if without plastics, I'm saying single-use plastics, can you imagine what will happen? This is single-use plastics, our masks, our containers, food containers. Food containers, we have a carrier bag which is high-density PE. We have the container is either polypropylene or PET, and the spoon and forks are PP. But we mix all them together. So there's no segregation at source. That's the source of the problem. So we don't segregate at source, then it can be, because all plastics are recyclable. It's thermal plastics. It's either mechanically or chemically, right? All this mechanically, that means there's one family, there's monopolymer. The other one is multipolymer. All this can be managed, but the problem is that segregation of source. I wouldn't be surprised your children or grandchildren, will tell you, Mom or grandmom, please separate these plastics, paper and plastics. So it's education, education, and education. The other one is to, the government need to help. It can be either EPR, extended producer responsibility, certain policies must be implemented by the government to make it happen. And now we are working with Post Malaysia. We collaborate with Post Malaysia, the courier bag. So they collect all the courier bag, come to my company, we recycle and produce back into the courier bag again. So we call it closing the loop. The loop must be closed. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I'm running out of time, yeah. Okay. What do you mean by doing more with less? We want to make sure that, because everything that we use, eat, or whatever, you go to the supermarket, you can't avoid plastics. You go to the food section, I would say 80% is plastics. Without plastic, there are millions and millions of tons of food waste every year. So what we do here, we have a dynamic simulation. If you look at the video, on the right side, we use 30%, 36% less plastics. On the left side, you use more plastics. Meaning that using less plastics or paper or strapping, and the right use of it, you can reduce packaging material. It's either paper, steel strapping, or even plastics, right? So that's the meaning that doing more with less. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that no one gets hurt during the logistics supply chain. There are injuries in the warehouses, injuries on the road. In Germany, there's a survey, 39% of the accidents involving trucks are due to unsecure loads. Your cars, you have IOD light, ABS, brakes, and all this. The main objective is to reduce accidents. But how about the truck? If you don't fasten your seatbelt, you are traveling 30 kilometers per hour, you stamp on the brake, you hit the screen. Wait. How about the 20 tons or 10 tons of goods at the back? There's no know-how to securely fasten, load the pallets on the back of the truck.
Dato, I think maybe we can reserve the
Yeah.
third part for the...
Okay.
So we can get the panel.
Sorry, this is the last one.
We'll play the video later. Yeah.
Yeah. Plastic is not the problem. Poor management of plastic is. There are only 14% of the global plastics are recycled. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dato' Ang. Next, we have Ms. Navina Balasingam, who is the General Manager of Capital Markets Malaysia. So, Navina, there's a lot of things that companies need to do. So, what would the regulators do to help?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, I represent Capital Markets Malaysia, which is an affiliate of the Securities Commission. Probably wondering why I'm here on this manufacturing panel. It's actually because a few years ago, CMM established these 3 centers of excellence: the Malaysian Sustainable Finance Initiative, the Center for Sustainable Corporations, and the Sustainable Investment Platform. And our intention, because our role is to support market development of the capital market, we wanted to make sure that our financial sector intermediaries and our public listed companies were also becoming more sustainable in their practices. And so each of these centers of excellence provide capacity building for specific sectors, so the financial sector, the public listed companies, and the asset owners and asset managers. And within the Center for Sustainable Corporations, we started out providing capacity building and trying to understand the pain points of the public listed companies. And many of them, like a few on stage with us, have set net zero targets. And in speaking to them, in setting these net zero targets, they were telling us that their major pain point was being able to get data from their supply chain. Getting credible ESG data is difficult. At the same time, we were also trying to understand how we could support the SMEs in the country. And the SMEs were saying that as major players of the supply chain, they were starting to get questions from their customers on basically disclosure questionnaires, right? They wanted, their customers were asking for ESG data like carbon emissions, what's your carbon footprint, water consumption, waste disposal. And these were all questions that may seem easy, but the problem is that it's very hard to find the data or to even know what data is credible to be reported. What CMM did was we first commissioned a study on what is happening in terms of the supply chain globally and within Malaysia. And the key things that I wanted to, it is a big report, but the key things I wanted to bring up is that 46% of global CEOs are adjusting their supply chains to deal with disruptions. And what this means in the context of ESG is global CEOs are saying once they've set a net zero target, and if their suppliers can't help them to meet that target, they are going to drop those suppliers, which means that SMEs are particularly at risk if they don't step up their ESG game. In Malaysia, Malaysia's top trade partners account for half of total trade export. And we all know that across the board, sustainability standards are being tightened. Bursa Malaysia has come up with enhanced sustainability reporting standards, and by the same token, so have the global frameworks. And 41% of revenue from Malaysian PLCs come from foreign markets, and the exposure is concentrated in the non-service sector, particularly manufacturing and transportation. Also, this is something that's very quoted very regularly, which is supply chain emissions. So emissions that are not coming from you as a company are 11.4 times higher than operational emissions. So this is basically why Capital Markets Malaysia came up with the simplified ESG disclosure guide for SMEs in supply chains. And to maybe just take a few more minutes to explain this, it is simplified in that we have simplified the language to make sure that you don't have to have an environmental science degree to understand what's in the guide. We use as many layman terms as we can. It's on ESG, which means that we've not just captured e-disclosures, we've also looked at the social questions that are being asked and governance questions. It's a disclosure guide, meaning that it's only to help SMEs to report on disclosures to their customers. And it's for SMEs in supply chains, which means that we don't intend for this guide to be applicable to every single SME. In Malaysia, there are about 900,000 SMEs. 700,000 of them are micro enterprises. This guide is not meant for micro enterprises. This guide is meant for those who are within supply chains and possibly have customers that are public listed or are multinationals or have set net zero targets. Okay. So let me just go through a little bit on how we came up with these. The end result is 35 disclosures, right? And so what we first did was we benchmarked against all of the major global sustainability guidances. So GRI, the FTSE for Good, ISSB, and the GHG protocol. We made sure that whatever we put into this guide followed these or are aligned with these global guidances. We then overlaid that with the local sustainability guidances in Malaysia, which is, of course, the Bursa Malaysia Sustainability Reporting Guide, the Malaysian Code on Corporate Governance, the PGG, and the Code for Institutional Investors, to make sure that whatever it is that the disclosures are, they are aligned with what Malaysian companies are meant to report on. We then asked a few large companies for their responsible procurement assessments. So we looked at 10 responsible procurement assessments from multinational companies. This basically is a list of questions that the procurement departments of these companies are asking their SME suppliers. And we wanted to know if this would be aligned. After that, we did a whole host of consultation sessions with, I see a few people in the room that have been in our consultation sessions. So with large companies, with the SMEs themselves, with banks in particular, because as you may know, banks have already started to ask their SME clients for ESG data as well, with financial institutions, with trade commissions, including the Dutch Chamber as well. And this exercise was really to make sure that the 35 disclosures are fit for purpose. And this is the stage where there was a lot of to and fro about what was needed, and there was a real need to balance practicality with best practice, which is what we've ended up with. We also launched our early adopter program. These are companies that have committed to either using the simplified ESG disclosure guide or committing to use this for their supply chain. So Nestle and Volvo Trucks will be using this for their supply chain. The financial institutions that you see here will be recommending the disclosure guide to their customers, and of course the trade associations likewise. So I think I'll stop here for now, and then I can take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Navina. You were mentioning about net zero disclosures, so maybe we move on to Renuka from Heineken, who is the Corporate Affairs and Legal Director, who will take us through the plans.
Thank you, Jackie. Very good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to share with you our plans at Heineken Malaysia Berhad, the work that we do on our journey towards net zero impact. First, let me share with you our global strategy. It's called the Brew a Better World strategy. It cuts across 186 sites across the globe, implemented in 70 different countries. So the strategy has a three-pronged approach. We focus on social sustainability, responsible consumption, and environmental sustainability. Very briefly, social sustainability, we have embraced diversity and inclusiveness, and digressing for a minute, in Malaysia, proud to say that 50% of our leaders are female and 43% of our board members are female. In terms of fair and safe workplace, we work hard to ensure the safety of our employees and our contractors on site, and every year a lot of effort goes into 2 community initiatives to build positive impact for local communities. Yeah. On the responsible consumption side, we are mandated to spend 10% of our brand media budget on responsible consumption initiatives to educate consumers on moderation and on the need never to drink and drive. So our focus today on environmental sustainability, the areas that we work on: net zero carbon, maximizing circularity, and working towards healthy watersheds. So we have very clear targets, as you can see, a very clear strategy with that, audacious targets to reach net zero in scope 1 and 2 by 2030, and across our entire value chain by 2040. In terms of circularity, the idea is to have zero waste to landfill in production on all our sites across the globe by 2025. And healthy watersheds in water-stressed countries, and Malaysia is rated as a water-stressed nation by our global team because of the accessibility issues and the water shortages that we face. So water-stressed countries need to be fully balanced by 2030, yeah? And 100% of the wastewater from a production site needs to be treated before it is released from production sites. So what I should share here is that not only the clear strategy, audacious goals, but also that we go to great effort to share these commitments publicly in our annual report. We identify what are the gaps, where we are right now, the gaps that we have to close by the targets set out here. So a great deal of transparency. You're welcome to see our annual report on our website. And for each one of the core areas I described, we have clear roadmaps, the journey we're going to take to get to our ultimate target. So as I mentioned, there is a target to get to net zero for Scope 1 and Scope 2 by 2030. Where we are today is we've reduced our carbon emissions by 49%. Yeah, and we were fortunate to be able to do that by procuring 100% renewable electricity since March 2022. So what we've done, apart from procuring green energy, we are looking at installing solar panels, which will further reduce our electricity consumption by 15%. And between 2025 and 28, we have a number of initiatives exploring new innovations and solutions. So we hope to reach, by 2028, to reach net zero in production 2 years ahead of our global target. Next, I'd like to share with you my favorite topic about healthy watersheds. We are the first company in Malaysia to be 100% water balance, and we've achieved that for 3 consecutive years. How we've handled issues regarding water is we have a 3-pronged approach. Water efficiency, where we've reduced the water used in production by 20%. We've identified areas of leakages and plugged those. We've looked at our production process, how can we be more effective and efficient in the usage of water. Second prong approach is water circularity, where 100% of the water that we use is treated before it is released, and we're constantly looking at ways where we can reuse this water for general cleaning and gardening. Finally, water balancing. What is water balancing? For every 1 liter of water that we use to produce our products, we look at initiatives to return 1.5 liters of water back into the environment, either through conservation or recovery of water. Lastly, we work on maximizing circularity. We have a zero waste to landfill target, which I mentioned, and we've achieved that since 2017. 100% of our production waste is recycled or upcycled, delivering us revenue of 1.9 million. So yes, we've made progress, but a lot of challenges ahead. We talked about renewable electricity. The availability and the pricing point are challenges, and we hope that this will be addressed in the future. Thermal energy is also a big challenge for us. Being a manufacturing facility located in the city, we have to look for solutions that are suitable for our environment. The next big progress that we have to make is engaging our stakeholders across our entire value chain, getting them to join us in our journey to become net zero by 2040. So we will be approaching stakeholders in agriculture, packaging, logistics, and cooling. A lot of work to be done. We will first embark in engaging all our business partners, looking at how we can help them understand the work that needs to be done and helping them with possible solutions out there. Yeah. So we believe at Heineken that it's a collective responsibility, not just to get ourselves and our business partners to the ultimate target, but the need to reach out and help others along the way. As mentioned by Navina, there is a global push for manufacturers to be compliant, and we don't want Malaysian manufacturers to fall off the global supply chain, as that would seriously impact the whole economy. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Renuka. We have our last speaker, Andrew Chan, who is the director of the Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association. Andrew?
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. My name is Andrew. Thanks for the invitation. I have only 3 slides very quickly. So, Malaysia Semiconductor Industry Association is the voice of the semiconductor and electronics industry in Malaysia. It's also known in Malaysia as the E&E sector, but it is the second E, not the electrical, but the electronics. Because electrical is the wireman that comes and fixes your electricity in your house. We are not that. We are the electronics, the semiconductor portion. We have 249 members from 18 countries, and we engage with all the stakeholders, media, our members, especially with the government, as well as other industry associations and chambers. What Heineken just now ended, you must remember, net zero by 2040 across all supply chain. That's very important. I'll come to that because that's going to be how I conclude. But just to give you a context of the E&E industry in Malaysia, Malaysia is actually quite an important country in the semiconductor business. Yeah, we are in the top 10. Around 7% of the global trade in semiconductor flows through Malaysia. We were very in the news internationally during COVID when there wasn't enough chips for the American cars. And especially in the area of testing, packaging, and assembly, we have a 13% market share. Yeah, so Malaysia is very important in this. And how important? We exported around 600 billion of exports last year. And not only that, what I'm most impressed is that the surplus from the E&E was around 200 billion, which means export minus imports. It came to about 200 billion. Okay, and Malaysia's total trade surplus for all the sectors was only 255. So around 80% of Malaysia's entire trade surplus came from E&E. So not only is it big, but we generating a lot of residual income in Malaysia. My last slide. So Heineken said that I saw, well, I was sitting not directly to the slide, but I saw a lot 2025, 2030, and then she ended the slide by saying 2040 net zero across the entire supply chain. Semiconductor is also the same. We don't talk about 2050, we talk about 2030 and 2040. Yeah. But this morning and in other presentations, I hear Malaysia talk about 2050. That, according to the industry, my industry association, is not good enough. Yeah, people say that, oh, we are too aggressive, 2050. I say that we are not aggressive enough because companies like Heineken and my members have got earlier targets than what Malaysia has set itself. Yeah, so you can see ST Micro, net zero, 50% by 2025. Infineon, 2030. Infineon tells me that all the other sites around the globe have already achieved renewable energy already, whereas Malaysia, we will definitely miss it. So then you can see Intel and Qualcomm, 100% by 2040. Renewable energy, Intel, 100% by 2030. And if you look at why these companies have got these targets, it is basically from Apple. Apple actually is quite a big electronics company. They have a net zero target of 2030. So if all the supply chain in Malaysia, and I've said it's 593, if we do not get on board by 2030, there is a chance that these companies may not be part of the global supply chain, may not be, and then Apple will say that I don't want to buy from you because you are not complying with net zero or the renewable energy. So that is the danger. So I'll just end by saying that Malaysia is not aggressive enough. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. It's very positive to hear numbers other than 2050 and 2030. So I commend the industry. I think we would like to give as much opportunity to everyone to ask questions. So maybe we can move on to the Q&A session right now. If anyone from the audience, if you would like to ask the question, please raise your hand, identify yourself. Yes, the gentleman there.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tan Leong Yok. I'm from Sim Seng Huat Timber. I'm a manufacturer of timber product for export, mainly to the Netherlands. And I'm also a member of the MWMJC, and George is my boss. So I would like to pose this question to him. Hope he don't find it too difficult. Talking about the ESG and the Zero Carbon Initiative is actually a good move for the world to address the climate change issue. But coming to this issue for the timber industry, it always gives the timberman a jittery. Because whenever there's any problem with the world weather, when there's flooding, when there's hurricane, people will point the finger at the timberman. So how are we going to implement net zero carbon and the ESG at the same time? We take care of the livelihood of people like me. Timber concession in Malaysia that are earmarked for sustainable logging with proper approval from the relevant authorities are being rumored to be recalled for the purpose of carbon trade. That means that will be the end of our business, especially for the tropical timber trade. And a lot of people suggest that the alternative will be plantation. Plantation is an alternative, but there's a lot of pros and cons, because plantation timber only provide mono species, or you have monoculture, where it only produce species that are foreign. But our Malaysia timber like Meranti and Merbau are very well sought after, especially in the overseas market. And if we do the plantation, it will also result in biodiversity loss. The best option, in my opinion, is to have the sustainable logging, where we have third party like FSC and PAFC to monitor. There's a report that actually the tiger population proliferate after log over jungle, because the young trees will grow in abundance, and it provide food for tiger prey like deer, you know. And so when they have a lot of food, the tiger population actually grow. So for plantation, it's in Malaysian context, I think it is not the best. My question is, Mr. George Yap, now we have a difficult situation. It's between rock and hard surface. We have to implement the ESG and the net zero carbon in order to fulfill the demand from the world market. So how are you going to assure your member that with the implementation of all these issues, the livelihood of your members are still assured? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tan, for a very comprehensive question, and indeed it is a real issue that we need to look into this. The ESG issues pertaining to timber industry is somehow very sensitive because some people may see and perceive timber industry equals to deforestation, equals to negative impact to environment. And in fact, this perception is arguable. It is very much depends on how we manage the supply chain and how we manage the forest. And with that, recently under our Malaysia Timber Council Board of Trustees, we come up with one idea. And this idea is, why not we learn from public instead of we communicate to public that timber is good? Why not we learn from public? So with that, we have the idea of creating a university debate. So meaning to say we invite 16 universities throughout the whole country and let the university student to debate whether timber is good for the environment or not. Is timber a good material for building or green building or not? So, of course, we have to stay neutral. We cannot be in the panel of judge. So we outsource to the public and let the student to debate. So the debate student may say, yes, timber is good because it's renewable, sustainable, can store the carbon. And on the other hand, the student may say against, disagree. So from the conversation here, we can learn from the public. And this is a good awareness that we would like to create. So it's going to happen very soon in the end of this year. So as far as ESG is concerned, I have to say very proudly to all other industries saying that in Malaysia, timber industry, we consist of upstream, downstream, different state, inclusive East Malaysia and West Malaysia with different government policy. So with that, we even managed to synchronize and align the whole country timber player together to come out a ESG, what we call the framework. And this framework, our output, target output is going to be our tropical first country that create the whole holistic ESG framework to enable all the big scale, medium scale or small scale timber industry to comply into this one. So Mr. Tan, I believe timber industry as of now, we are still very positive. Now we just what to do is to look into some raw material issue against the deforestation because our country commit to 50% forest conservation. Therefore, the Sabah, Sarawak and Peninsula in terms of the tree plantation and the usage of tree plantation is very critical for us to share and to work together, to collaborate together in a so-called holistic approach. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a question, maybe we move to Slido for Renuka. The question is, congrats on doing so much and the industry leadership. What's your message to the rest of the manufacturing industries? How should they start? I mean, given that Heineken has got very advanced goals.
Okay, I guess it starts with taking small steps, set targets. Targets have to be set by the highest level of management. Starts with the MD setting the tone, cascading it through the organization, working cross-functionally with all departments through the company, seeing how each one can contribute to the ultimate goal, and also then creating roadmaps. For us, that has been very important, and we pressure test those roadmaps with our regional and global partners. And constant dialogue with stakeholders, whether it's government, getting them to understand some of the obstacles which the manufacturing sector is facing. You can do that on your own or more so through chambers of commerce. And we have been doing a lot of engagement on behalf of our members at the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And happy to support anyone who needs help there in engaging government. But more so, you need to engage all your stakeholders, your business partners, start that early. We also have a lot of work to do on that front. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Renuka. There's a question for Tong Guan, Dato' Ang. Like you clearly mentioned, the problem is managing plastic waste. How has the certification helped you to communicate your success and make value?
To my company, I think sustainability is a responsibility. Sustainability is an accountability. So it's very important that we want to make sure that, especially all this EPR, EPR is I think that's important. We have to make sure that what's the life cycle, the end of the life cycle of a product that we produce. So for Tong Guan, at the end of the day, if we promote sustainability, actually, at the end of the day, it's cost saving. Just now, Heineken, the company is already saying, the watershed. If you save on water, you are starting to focus on how to conserve that water, and along the process, there's a lot of cost saving. So for Tong Guan, from our experience, you talk about Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. So for our product, for example, if you buy the 30% or 50% plastic product with a recycle, we are ISCC Plus certified. That means there's a lot of good bookkeeping from the point of custody to the processes and to the point of destination, including, for example, we are shipping to Sydney. We are working with the shipping company has to let us know how much carbon CO2 is used. So there's a lot of bookkeeping, and we are certified, but there's an option that we choose to calculate the greenhouse gas along all the processes. So those who buy the product, which is 50% or 30% recycled from us, we will give them an ISCC Plus certificate, which states the amount of CO2 consumed or emit. Yeah, and we are also GRS certified. This is a global recycling standard. I mean, at the end of the day, it's functionality or performance, visibility, and traceability.
Thank you, Dato' Ang. Maybe I open it to the floor. Question from the gentleman.
My name's John Preston from a company called Intermovers. We're international movers and use a lot of packaging material, paper, cardboard, stretch film, bubble wrap, and so forth. And my question's for you, Dato' Ang, and I really do respect you coming along to an ESG conference representing the plastics industry, given the pressure that's on you. We're being now requested by our trading partners in Europe to provide plastic-free moves, and that includes the elimination of stretch film, which we use for pallets, and you're 100% right, it's very efficient and very cost-effective, and bubble wrap. We've eliminated tape by using gum tape. My question to you is, how do we combat this when we've got the Europeans and America saying to do away with plastics totally? That's question one. Question two, on my ESG journey with my company, I find it very, very, very difficult to find where I could recycle used bubble wrap and used stretch film. Most of the stuff was going to landfill, which we know is wrong. So I think there's maybe a bit of education in the market of where we can efficiently dispose of bubble wrap and stretch film. Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the first question, please?
What can we say to the Europeans and Americans that are saying to us now, we want to go plastic-free on our moves, and they're promoting it to their customers and their corporate accounts, which are top Fortune 500 companies that say they're providing plastic-free moves. So that means we have to eliminate stretch film and bubble wrap.
Okay. Thank you for the question. just now I say, if you go to the supermarket, you talk about cosmetics, food products, everything is, I would say 80 or 90% is plastics or paper. So without packaging, using the plastics, there are millions and millions of tons of product will be wasted. Waste. So the question is, there are two. One is how to do more with less, meaning that use the least packaging material, either it's paper or plastics, to securely wrap a pallet, and all the products are packed in a factory and shipped and delivered onto the shelves. There's a huge volume. And how to reduce that? Number one, plastics. Number two, damages. Actually, the carbon footprint is more if there are goods damaged upon arrival. As I say just now, Leuven University of Belgium, they have researched about 4% upon arrival. We are talking about tens of billions. And more than that, repacking, reverse logistics, documentation, and man-hour, and all this will increase the carbon footprint. And to answer the question, I think it's closing the loop. You see, the bubble bag is PE, the stretch film is PE, right? So these are 100% thermoplastics. They can be recycled. Just now we talk about sorting. For example, in my company, we import a lot of plastics from all over the world, which is the plastic resin, is 25 kg, right? The plastic bag, 25 kg, is polyethylene. And they wrap either with all pelletized goods are wrapped only with 3 types of plastics. One is the pellet stretch film, one is the pellet stretch hood, the other one is the string film. All these are mono-material. If we collect the stretch film and we produce into stretch film, we call it is a closed loop. If you have the bubble bag and stretch film, it can be recycled, and that plastics, recycled plastic, can produce garbage bags or other products or injection molding. It's called an open loop. So it's also a loop, it's circular economy. So the key is that different types of plastics from a different family, for example, polyethylene or polypropylene, they cannot be mixed. If it's mixed, it's too expensive to be sorted. And that can be done by chemical recycling, or we call it pyrolysis. Turn it into chemical oil, and the manufacturer will use it to produce another types of plastics. So it can be, it's about recycling. For example, post-Malaysia, we're working with them, all the courier bags in Malaysia, and they collected, and we recycle, and we can produce into courier bag again. There's a closed loop. It's either open loop or closed loop, but it must be a loop to complete the circular economy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dato' Ang. I think that's all we have time for. Maya's looking at me.
That's right. I'm so sorry about that, but we cannot sit here until midnight. So let's keep everything short and sweet for the rest of the day. We want to keep everybody's attention sharp as well. So thank you, Ms. Jackie Ma, for moderating and giving us your time today. And as usual, Mr. Supun, it's time for you to do some exercise again. And along with him, Miss, where am I? I'm also starting to, Miss Oisha. Oriane, sorry. Oh, there you are. You are a cute little thing, aren't you? So thank you to our panelists for speaking. And then, of course, we have the group picture again. Everyone, bring out your bright smiles. All right, please take your positions so we can have a nice group shot. I think maybe do we have to be a bit more center? Everybody over to your left a little bit. To the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. A la Beyonce. Okay. Everybody can fit in there, Uncle? Yeah, a few more. That's thumbs up, everybody, thumbs up. Lovely, lovely, lovely Ghibli. Now we request that Mr. George and Mr. Supun remain on stage, though everyone else is allowed to go and take a seat again. And just for another quick announcement to make to you all. Oh, can we give him some voice on the mic? Somebody else you would like to invite on stage, or? All in the timber industry, please attend on stage. Okay, one lovely lady. Okay, are we good? Is that it? We are proud to announce Malaysia's Timber Association, MTA, the Timber Industry Association Coalition of Malaysia, has appointed Control Union Malaysia to conduct ESG trainings to its coalition members across the 3 regions of Malaysia, and also propose a timber industrial tailored ESG framework for the Malaysian timber industry. All righty, a good step forward, a good coalition. Oh, one more, one more. Smile, everybody. Awesome.